Hi, my name is Carmen Benitez. Enron was an energy trading and utilities company based in Houston, Texas, which was formed by a merger between Houston Natural Gas and Enron. In 1984, when the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission eased some pricing restrictions, Ken Lay gained a reputation for effectiveness by negotiating Enron's escape from more burdensome contracts. This allowed companies to buy gas from anywhere and anyone. Using the gas bank allowed Enron to act not only as a broker, but also a banker committing to provide guaranteed quantities of gas at a set price on long-term contracts. When the gas bank became a success, Skilling left McKinsey and moved to Enron in 1991, where he was later promoted to COO and then CEO. When Skilling started, he made it a condition of his employment that Enron use mark-to-market accounting. The Securities and Exchange Commission did not object to them using mark-to-market accounting. In 1990, Enron began using special purpose entities, which were shell firms created by a sponsor but funded by independent equity investors and debt financing. Enron started out using SPEs correctly to fund or manage risk associated with certain projects, though even when they were using them properly, they were accused of strong-arming investment bankers. In the 1990s as well, when it seemed as if water was going to become deregulated, Enron purchased Wessex Water of Great Britain for over $2 billion. Enron renamed the company Osrix. Within 2 years, it was liquidated and financed with SPEs Marlin and Opresi. The SPEs kept this debt off Enron's books until it was later recognized in 2001, right before they went bankrupt. In 1994, Congress gave the states authority to deregulate gas and electric utilities. Enron's big target in the new market was California. Even after the effort was canceled, Enron continued to supply wholesale power to California, and during the shortage, Enron was accused of manipulating supplies, which led to 2 Enron traders to be indicted for criminal fraud. In 1999, Enron launched Enron Online, which became the largest e-commerce site in the world. In January 2000, Enron created a broadband fiber optics business called Enron Broadband Services. The estimated loss for Enron was over $1 billion in its broadband venture. However, they used predominantly mark-to-market accounting to record a profit of $100 million from a blockbuster deal to cover the broadband loss. In actuality, the deal did not generate revenue for Enron. In 2001, when complaints were rising that Enron's financial reports were vague and raised concerns, Raptors, an SPE, was created to remove international assets from Enron's books. However, it was nearly insolvent, so it was restructured in March to hide $200 million in losses. In November, Enron considered a merger with Digi Incorporated and was given $1.5 billion in cash to hold them over until the merger. However, Enron's third quarter loss was restated to $664 million, and Enron's fourth quarter prospects appeared dismal. This caused the reconsideration on Digny's behalf, as Enron's credit ratings were just above junk status. The merger collapsed, and no bank would extend any more credit to Enron. In December 2001, Enron filed for bankruptcy. The bankruptcy and numerous suspicious activities led to the U.S. Department of Justice opening a criminal investigation into Enron. Several Enron executives were charged with conspiracy, insider trading, and securities fraud. However, the big names included Ken Lay, Andrew Fastow, Jeffrey Skilling, and Arthur Anderson. Ken Lay was the founder and the former CEO of Enron. He was convicted on 6 counts of fraud and conspiracy and 4 counts of bank fraud. Andrew Fastow was a former CFO of Enron. He cooperated with federal authorities and only received 2 counts of wire fraud and securities fraud. The former CEO, Jeff Skilling, had the harshest sentence, and he was convicted of conspiracy, fraud, and insider trading. His sentence was reduced to 10 years for a deal that he provided in giving $42 million back to the victims. The first person actually convicted in the case was Arthur Anderson, who was an outside auditor for the company. He was found guilty of obstruction of justice, which was later appealed, but he was shredding financial documents for the company. What would I have done if I were a young accountant working at Enron during the scandal? 2 of the accounting methods that were misused throughout the downfall of Enron were the special purpose entities and mark-to-market method. A special purpose entity is a legal entity established to serve a special limited purpose. An SPE can be a corporation, trust, partnership, or limited liability corporation, and most are used for 1 or 2 purposes. The first is when a corporation wants to isolate a business operation or some corrupt asset. The second is when interest in a pool of assets are being sold to investors through a scrutinization. Mark-to-market, also called fair value accounting, is a method that values an asset to its current market level, showing how much the company will receive if an asset were sold. Under mark-to-market accounting, the entire estimated value of a sales contract or project can be recognized as revenue on the day the deal is completed, before any work has been done or cost incurred to fulfill the contract. Enron abused both SPEs and mark-to-market method to inflate their revenues and fool investors. In a typical transaction, Enron would transfer its own stock to an SPE in exchange for note or cash, and also directly or indirectly guarantee the SPE's value. The SPE, in turn, would hedge the value of a particular investment on Enron's balance sheet, using the transferred Enron stock as the principal source to the payment. There are a couple appropriate motivations behind why a company would use SPEs to isolate assets or operations. In regards to a business operation, the company may want to achieve isolation from potential legal exposure that could come from the business. An SPE could also be a way to allow establishment of a joint venture with another company or investor. A company could also use an SPE for corporate tax planning. In a properly constructed SPE, the sponsor may not have to show the SPE's debt on its own balance sheet. If the debt of an SPE is non-recourse to the sponsor, the structure can be viewed as being beneficial to shareholders of the sponsor by preserving profit potential while limiting risk. In the second general use, the sponsor will sell assets to the SPE. The SPE will issue securities that are purchased by investors. The proceeds of the sale will provide the SPE with the cash to pay the seller of the assets, and then the proceeds are used to pay the interest and principal back to investors. Enron would misuse mark-to-market method by developing numbers to represent what an energy contract was actually worth, and then they would record the total expected lifetime value of any contract or project on their balance sheet instead of the contract value in that quarter. Mark-to-market accounting is more properly used in companies in the financial service industry, who may need to make adjustments to their assets account if the borrower defaults on the loan throughout the year. The logic behind mark-to-market accounting for appropriately traded assets is very sound and is actually required accounting practice in many cases. Mark-to-market accounting would not be appropriate for any asset whose value is set by an authority other than the market, such as a public utility commission, which is exactly what Enron was doing. If I had been an employee during this time, I would have wanted to do the ethical thing and report Enron's activities. However, during this time, there were no laws in place to protect whistleblowers, which would have made the decision to tell the truth that much more difficult. I'm sure that Enron was aware of the lack of protection to its employees, and which made them feel even more powerful against ongoing suspicions. As a new accountant trying to start my career, it would have been daunting going against such a huge corporation like Enron, who had the power to tarnish my name and the rest of my career. Regardless, I would have done the right thing and reported my findings to my bosses, CEO Jeff Skilling and COO Ken Lay. If reporting the fraud to Enron itself did not help the situation, then I would feel as though I had to move forward and report the company to the U.S. Department of Justice. If my pleas were ignored, I would have done my best not to participate in these actions to avoid being charged with any criminal acts. Thank you.